Welcome to the world of science fiction, where extraordinary tales and boundless imagination come to life. Enjoy the story and don't forget to subscribe. The neon sign of the last stop bar flickered pathetically against the backdrop of endless space, casting sickly purple shadows across Raymond Alastair's face as he nursed his third glass of Centon whiskey. The bar sat on the edge of civilized space, a gathering spot for smugglers, mercenaries, and those trying to forget their past or run from it. To the survivors, Selton Kessler raised his glass, his violet skin catching the bar's dim light. Despite being 30 years Raymond's senior, the tall alien carried himself with the same dignity he had when they'd first met. Silver eyes, sharp as ever, studied Raymond with that familiar mix of amusement and calculation. Raymond clinked his glass against Selton's. To not dying on that godforsaken moon. Selton's mouth curled into a knowing smirk. Speaking of not dying alone. Oh no, Raymond set his glass down harder than necessary. Not this again. You're not getting any younger, my friend, and my girls are way too good for a scoundrel like me. Raymond cut him off, though he couldn't help the slight smile tugging at his lips. He'd seen Kira and Taa grow from awkward teenagers into formidable young women. Kira, with her father's diplomatic grace and a warrior spirit. Taa, the tech genius who could make any machine sing. They've certainly grown fond of you, Selton impressed, swirling the amber liquid in his glass. I've seen how Kira looks at you during training sessions. And Taa, she practically glows when you praise her engineering work. They flirt with everyone, Raymond deflected, though his collar suddenly felt too tight. It's part of their charm. Not like they flirt with you, Selton's expression turned serious. In our culture, 5 wives is standard, but those 2, they're worth 10 each. Raymond choked on his drink. I'm not exactly husband material, Selton. My idea of commitment is keeping the same ship for more than 6 months. And yet, you've been coming to family dinners for 15 years. Selton reached into his pocket, pulling out something that caught the light. Here, I want you to have this. The pendant was beautiful in its alienness, gold and silver metal worked into intricate patterns Raymond had never seen before. It felt oddly heavy in his palm, like it contained more than just precious metal. A family heirloom? Raymond raised an eyebrow. First marriage talk, now inheritance. Should I be worried? Something dark flickered behind Selton's eyes, there and gone so fast Raymond almost missed it. Just keep it close, for luck. The rest of the evening passed in a blur of drinks and memories, but that moment stuck with Raymond, the weight of the pendant, the uncharacteristic tension in Selton's shoulders, the words left unsaid. The next morning, Selton was gone. A week later, Raymond got the call. Selton Kessler, diplomat, warrior, and the closest thing to a father he'd had in decades, was dead. The official report called it an accident during a routine diplomatic mission. Raymond knew better. In their line of work, there were no accidents. But before he could even begin to process the loss, another message arrived, this one from the Intergalactic Registry of Inheritance and Customs. His hands shook as he read the first line. In accordance with the final wishes of Selton Kessler and the laws of succession of the Violet Stars, you, Raymond Alastair, are hereby named sole heir to the Kessler estate, including but not limited to the starship Shadow Raven. And he had to read the next part twice. And the sacred duty of marriage to the Kessler daughters, to be fulfilled within 1 standard lunar cycle. The pendant around his neck suddenly felt like it weighed a ton. Raymond stared at the message until the words blurred together. He'd attended enough Violet Star ceremonies to know this wasn't some bureaucratic mistake. Marriage inheritance was sacred law among their people, a tradition dating back to when noble houses needed to ensure their daughters wouldn't be left vulnerable after a patriarch's death. His communicator buzzed. Kira's hologram materialized above his wrist, her violet skin translucent in the blue projection. Even through the poor connection, her beauty was striking, high cheekbones, silver eyes like her father's, and that familiar half-smile that always made his heart skip. "Ray," her voice was tight, "we need to talk. In person." "Kira, I just got the notification." "I don't." "Meet us at the Shadow Raven, Dock 9. 1 hour." She paused. "And Ray, bring the pendant." The connection cut before he could respond. Raymond cursed under his breath, already reaching for his jacket. The pendant seemed to pulse against his chest, though he told himself it was just his imagination. The spaceport was exactly as dingy as he remembered, all rusted metal and flickering lights, the air thick with the smell of fuel and desperation. The Shadow Raven stood out like a queen among peasants, sleek black hull, predatory lines, and weapon systems that would make a military captain weep. She was Selton's pride and joy, a ship that had gotten them out of more scrapes than Raymond could count. As he approached the entry ramp, a familiar voice echoed from the ship's speakers, "Unregistered organic detected. Access denied. Override code Alistair, 79 invalid credentials." Was it his imagination, or did the AI sound smug? "Initiating defense protocols." Wait, what? A jolt of electricity shot through the ramp, sending him sprawling backward onto the dock. As he lay there trying to remember how to breathe, 2 pairs of boots appeared in his field of vision. "I see you've met Astra," TAA's voice was filled with barely contained laughter. The younger Kessler sister crouched beside him, her violet skin darker than Kira's, making her silver eyes seem to glow. "She's been temperamental since father's death." "Temperamental?" Raymond wheezed. "She just tried to kill me. If I wanted to kill you, organic, you would be dead." The AI's voice dripped with disdain. Kira extended a hand, pulling Raymond to his feet with effortless strength. She'd clearly just finished training, dressed in form-fitting combat gear, a thin sheen of sweat making her skin shimmer under the dock lights. Raymond forced himself to maintain eye contact. "Astra," Kira commanded, "protocol override Kessler Alpha. Grant temporary access. Processing." A pause, "Override accepted. Welcome aboard, heir apparent. Try not to bleed on my floors." The interior of the Shadow Raven was exactly as Raymond remembered, a perfect blend of luxury and functionality. But something felt different, tenser, like the ship itself was holding its breath. "We have a problem," Kira said as they entered the main living area. "Several, actually. Besides the homicidal AI, Astra is just the beginning." TAA dropped into a plush chair, pulling up a holographic display. "Father's death wasn't an accident. Someone wanted him dead, and now they're coming for us." Raymond's hand went instinctively to the pendant. What did Selton get himself mixed up in? "It's not what he did," Kira's voice was hard. "It's what we are. The Kessler bloodline carries something, a genetic marker that makes us compatible with ancient technology. Technology that certain people would kill to control. And now, those same people want to force marriages with both of you to get access to that genetic marker," Raymond finished, the pieces clicking into place. "That's why Selton named me heir." "Smart boy," TAA chimed in, "though I still think he could have chosen better." Kira shot TAA an exasperated look. "The point is, we need to complete the marriage ceremony before anyone else can claim inheritance rights. Otherwise we'll be sold off to the highest bidder," Kira finished, "probably some ancient senator who collects exotic wives like art pieces." Raymond's stomach turned at the thought. "How long do we have?" 3 days before the inheritance claim becomes public record. After that, TAA's expression darkened, "Let's just say there are already ships watching this station, waiting. And you're both okay with this?" Raymond looked between them. "Marrying me?" The sisters exchanged a look that spoke volumes. It was Kira who answered, stepping close enough that he could see the subtle patterns in her violet skin. "Father trusted you more than anyone, and we've known you half our lives." TAA added with a wicked grin, besides, you're not exactly hard on the eyes for a human. Before Raymond could process that comment, alarms blared throughout the ship. TAA's hands flew across the holographic display. Multiple ships just dropped out of hyperspace. Energy signatures matched Senate security vessels. That's impossible, Kira breathed. They couldn't know yet, unless someone leaked the inheritance claim. We need to go. Now. Slight problem, TAA announced. I don't recognize you as authorized pilot, and I'm feeling rather particular about who touches my controls. Astra, Kira snapped, this isn't a game. Those ships will be here in minutes. Then I suggest the organic proves himself worthy of the Kessler legacy. The AI's voice was maddeningly calm. Unless you prefer to wait for the Senate's hospitality. Raymond's hand went to the pendant again. It was definitely warmer now, almost humming against his skin. A crazy idea formed. Astra, initiate pilot certification protocol. Oh. The AI actually sounded interested. And what makes you think you can pass my tests, organic? Because, Raymond pulled out the pendant, holding it up to the nearest sensor. Selton gave me this, and I'm betting it's more than just jewelry. The pendant pulsed with golden light. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, the ship's systems came alive, displays flickering with ancient symbols. Genetic marker detected, Astra announced, sounding almost impressed. Certification protocol accepted. Try not to crash us, organic. Raymond slid into the pilot's seat as Kira and TAA took their positions. The familiar hum of the engines was like coming home. Ladies, I suggest you hold on to something. This is going to get interesting. As Senate ships appeared on the radar, closing fast, Raymond couldn't help but smile. Selton had always said he needed the right motivation to settle down. Looks like he finally found it. The Shadow Raven cut through space like a blade, but the Senate ships were closing fast. Raymond's hands danced across the controls, falling into rhythms he'd learned decades ago during the Galactic War. Incoming transmission, Astra announced, managing to sound both bored and anxious. Put them through. A hologram materialized, a stern-faced Senate commander with a perfectly pressed uniform. His expression shifted from stern to shocked as he recognized Raymond. Commander Alistair. The Ghost of Centauri. Raymond couldn't help a slight smile. He hadn't heard that title in years. Just Raymond these days, Commander. The man straightened even further. We are eternally grateful for your service during the war. The peace we enjoy today, we owe it to you and Shadow Squadron. Kira and TAA exchanged surprised looks. They'd known Raymond was a veteran, but this level of respect was unexpected. Then perhaps you'd be willing to let us pass. Raymond kept his voice casual, though his hands remained ready on the controls. The commander's expression turned pained. Sir, I have direct orders from the Senate regarding the Kessler inheritance. I must insist you return to the station. Must you? Raymond leaned forward slightly. Because I remember a young lieutenant on Proxima Beta, trapped behind enemy lines. Someone risked everything to pull him out. The commander's face flushed. That was you. Your daughter must be, what, 15 now? The age you thought you'd never live to see. A long pause followed. The commander looked off-screen, then back. Our sensors seem to be experiencing temporary interference. It may take us several hours to recalibrate. Safe travels, Commander Alistair. He saluted. And thank you again. The transmission cut. Raymond plotted a course away from the station, pushing the Shadow Raven to full speed. That was. TAA started. Impressive, Kira finished. It won't hold them for long, Raymond warned. The Senate will send others, ones who don't owe me their lives. Then we better make this time count. Kira's hand rested briefly on his shoulder. But first, I think you owe us a story about you and father. Hours later, after they'd put significant distance between themselves and the station, Raymond found himself in the ship's common area, sharing tales of the war, of how he'd met Sultan during the bloodiest campaign in recorded history. A young human commander and a Violet Star diplomat, both trying to end the slaughter. We saved each other's lives so many times, we lost count, Raymond said softly. Became brothers in everything but blood. When the war ended, he was the one who kept me from. He trailed off. Losing yourself, Kira finished gently. The adrenaline of escape had worn off, leaving behind the raw pain of loss. TAA had curled up in a chair, eyes red-rimmed. Kira stood by the viewport, trying to maintain her composure, but Raymond could see her shoulders shaking slightly. I miss him, TAA whispered. I keep expecting him to walk through the door with some ridiculous story about his latest diplomatic adventure. Or complain about Astra's attitude, Kira added with a watery laugh. I heard that, the AI commented, but her usual snark was subdued. Raymond looked at these two young women, no longer the kids who used to beg him for spaceship stories, but strong, brilliant adults carrying an impossible burden. Without thinking, he opened his arms. They hesitated only a moment before moving to him. He was so proud of you both, Raymond said softly. Never shut up about it, actually. Drove me crazy sometimes. They ended up in the captain's quarters, none of them wanting to be alone. The bed was massive, designed for multiple partners, as was Violet Star custom. They lay fully clothed, finding comfort in simple proximity. TAA curled against his right side, her head on his shoulder. The hyperspace jump blurred the stars into streaks of light as the Shadow Raven hurtled towards the outer rim. Raymond, still adjusting to his role as pilot/guardian/reluctant fiancé, steered the ship through the chaotic currents of space. Where are we headed? He asked, glancing at Kira, who was studying star charts with an intensity that bordered on obsession. The nexus points, she responded without looking up. Ancient jump gates created by the first builders. They're unstable, unpredictable, and closely guarded, which makes them perfect for shaking off unwanted company. And where do these nexus points lead? Raymond raised an eyebrow. TAA chimed in from her station, fingers flying across the console. Nowhere good, usually. Rumor has it, some lead to dead worlds, others to pocket dimensions where time flows backward. Fun stuff. Raymond winced. Sounds like a vacation. Think of it as, character building, Kira said with a rare smile. We need to reach the Temple of Xylos. It's the only place where we can undergo the trials of the bloodline. Trials? Raymond asked. Like, tests. Exactly, Kira confirmed. To prove we are worthy of wielding the ancient technology connected to our bloodline. The Temple of Xylos is shielded by a series of puzzles, traps, and guardians. Legend says many have tried, but few have succeeded. And what happens if we fail? Let's just say the temple isn't known for its hospitality, TAA answered grimly. Hours turned into days as they navigated the treacherous nexus points. Raymond relied on his gut instinct, Kira's navigation skills, and TAA's ability to coax ancient machinery back to life. The Shadow Raven sustained its fair share of scrapes, but they managed to stay one step ahead of their pursuers. Senate ships are gaining on us, Astra announced, her voice laced with something that almost sounded like concern. And I'm detecting another vessel, larger and more heavily armed, trailing behind them. Great, Raymond muttered. Who else wants a piece of the Kessler pie? Unidentified vessel is broadcasting on a secure channel, TAA reported. Claiming to be representatives of the Council of Harmonious Convergence. They wish to discuss terms of surrender. Kira's face darkened. Harmonious Convergence. They're a fringe religious sect obsessed with controlling ancient artifacts. They'll dissect us alive to get what they want. No surrender, then. Raymond asked rhetorically. He slammed the Shadow Raven into a daring maneuver, narrowly avoiding a barrage of laser fire. "Time for a little misdirection," TAA said, her fingers dancing across the console. She initiated a series of holographic projections, creating multiple images of the Shadow Raven scattering in different directions. "A classic smuggler's trick," Raymond smirked. "But will it work?" "Only one way to find out," Kira said, strapping herself into her combat harness. "Prepare for boarding action." Before Raymond could protest, a boarding pod slammed against the Shadow Raven's hull. Armed figures in harmonious convergence robes poured into the ship, wielding energy blades and chanting religious slogans. "Astra, seal the corridors!" Kira yelled. "Raymond, you're with me." Raymond grabbed his blaster and followed Kira into the fray. The corridors of the Shadow Raven became a battleground, laser fire echoing through the ship. Raymond fought with a ferocity born of desperation, years of combat experience kicking in. Kira moved like a whirlwind, her energy blade slicing through the enemy ranks. "They're relentless," Raymond shouted as he took down another robed figure. "We have to reach the engine room," Kira responded. "If they disable the warp drive, we're finished." They fought their way through the ship, back to back, until they reached the engine room door. But the harmonious convergence forces were waiting for them. A heavily armored figure stepped forward, his face hidden behind a mask. "The Kessler bloodline will be purified," the figure intoned. "Join us, and your legacy will be preserved." "We'd rather die than join your twisted cult," Kira spat. The armored figure raised his hand, and the harmonious convergence forces attacked. Raymond and Kira fought valiantly, but they were outnumbered and outgunned. Just when they thought they were finished, TAA appeared, wielding a makeshift energy cannon. "Surprise!" she yelled, blasting a hole through the enemy ranks. "TA, what took you so long?" Kira asked, panting. "I was busy reprogramming the ship's defense systems," TAA grinned. "Astra, show them what you've got." The Shadow Raven came alive, unleashing a barrage of laser fire and sonic blasts. The harmonious convergence forces were caught in the crossfire, their ranks decimated. The armored figure retreated, his followers scrambling to escape. "They're retreating!" Raymond exclaimed. "Not for long," Kira said grimly. "They'll be back, and next time they'll be better prepared. We need to reach the Temple of Xylos before they catch us again." Raymond nodded, his hand instinctively going to the pendant around his neck. The weight of inheritance was heavy, but he was determined to protect Kira and TAA, even if it meant facing ancient trials and fanatical cults. He was the only family they had left. Weeks blurred into a relentless chase. The Shadow Raven, battered but unbowed, limped into a forgotten sector of space, a graveyard of derelict ships and shattered asteroids. According to Selton's journals, Kira announced, pointing to a faint anomaly on the star charts, "The Keepers reside within this nebula. If anyone knows how to navigate the trials, it's them." "Keepers?" Raymond echoed. "Never heard of them." "They're elusive," TAA explained. "A reclusive group dedicated to preserving ancient knowledge. They don't take kindly to visitors." The nebula was a swirling canvas of cosmic dust and ionized gas, playing tricks on the Shadow Raven sensors. Raymond navigated cautiously, dodging rogue asteroids and energy fluctuations. Suddenly, a voice echoed through the ship's comms, ancient and resonant. "Halt, travelers. You have trespassed upon sacred ground. State your purpose." "We seek guidance," Kira responded, her voice clear and respectful. "We are of the Kessler bloodline, and we require assistance in understanding the trials of Xylos." A long silence followed. Then, the voice spoke again. "The Kessler bloodline is tainted. Your presence is unwelcome. Depart, or face the consequences." "We will not leave," Kira said firmly. "Our bloodline carries a responsibility, and we intend to fulfill it." We seek only knowledge, not power. A faint energy signature appeared on the radar, growing stronger with each passing moment. Very well, the voice boomed. You will be tested. Prove your worth, or be consumed by the nebula. A beam of light enveloped the Shadow Raven, pulling it towards a hidden structure within the nebula. The ship shuddered as it passed through a shimmering barrier, emerging into a hidden enclave, a cluster of ancient temples and crystalline towers, bathed in ethereal light. Welcome to the Keeper's Citadel, the voice said. Prepare for your trials. They were greeted by a group of robed figures, their faces obscured by masks. The leader, a tall, imposing figure, stepped forward. I am Elder Theron, he said. We have watched your journey with interest. The Kessler bloodline carries a heavy burden. But we must be certain that you are worthy of wielding its power. We understand, Kira said. We are prepared to face whatever trials you deem necessary. Then let the trials begin, Elder Theron said. First, you must prove your knowledge of the ancient lore. The Keepers subjected them to a series of rigorous tests, quizzing them on history, philosophy, and the intricacies of ancient technology. Kira excelled in the historical and philosophical questions, drawing on her diplomatic training. TAA demonstrated her mastery of technology, deciphering complex schematics and repairing ancient devices. Raymond, however, struggled. His knowledge of ancient lore was limited, and he felt out of place among these scholars. But he compensated with his practical skills, using his engineering knowledge to solve problems that stumped the Keepers. Impressive, Elder Theron conceded. But knowledge alone is not enough. You must also prove your strength and courage. The Keepers led them to a training arena, where they faced a series of combat challenges. Kira demonstrated her martial prowess, defeating skilled opponents with ease. Raymond relied on his instincts and experience, holding his own against younger, more agile fighters. But the final trial was the most difficult, a test of their moral character. The Keepers presented them with a series of ethical dilemmas, forcing them to make difficult choices with no easy answers. A difficult scenario, TAA admitted, but I hope we made the right call. The trio weighed the lives of many, the price of secrets, and the nature of good and evil. Raymond argued with his friends on some points, and sometimes they did not end up agreeing, but the elder watched the group in amusement as they tried to reason with each other. Raymond, Kira, and TAA debated for hours, wrestling with their consciences. In the end, they made a decision that reflected their values: compassion, justice, and a commitment to protecting the innocent. Elder Theron nodded slowly. You have proven yourselves worthy, he said. You possess the knowledge, the strength, and the moral character to wield the power of the Kessler bloodline. We will guide you on your path. But be warned, the trials you have faced are only the beginning. Greater challenges lie ahead. As the Keepers led them deeper into the Citadel, Raymond couldn't shake the feeling that they were walking into a trap. The Keepers seemed too eager to help, too willing to trust them. He had a nagging suspicion that something was not right. The nexus of the Citadel began to tremble, and Astra alerted them that enemy ships have broken the nebula's shields and were making their way towards their position. It seems as though the trials of the bloodline were just beginning, as it was a race against the enemy, the clock, and their own understanding of where to go next. Life within the Keeper's Citadel settled into an uneasy rhythm. Raymond, Kira, and TAA immersed themselves in studying the ancient texts, honing their skills, and preparing for the trials of Xylos. Elder Theron and the Keepers provided invaluable guidance, sharing their knowledge of the ancient technology and the secrets of the Kessler bloodline. However, Raymond couldn't shake his suspicions. He noticed inconsistencies in the Keeper's stories, subtle contradictions that raised red flags in his mind. He shared his concerns with Kira and TAA, but they dismissed them as paranoia. You're being too suspicious, Ray, Kira said. The Keepers have been nothing but helpful. I agree, TAA added. They've given us access to knowledge that would have taken us years to acquire on our own. Raymond sighed. He knew they wanted to trust the keepers, but he couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. He decided to investigate on his own, sneaking into the forbidden sections of the citadel under the cover of darkness. He discovered a hidden chamber, filled with holographic displays and ancient artifacts. As he delved deeper, he uncovered a shocking truth: the keepers were not the benevolent guardians they claimed to be. They were a splinter faction, obsessed with controlling the ancient technology for their own selfish purposes. They had lured the Kessler bloodline to the Citadel under false pretenses, intending to exploit their genetic marker to unlock the secrets of Xylos. Raymond raced back to warn Kira and TAA, but he was too late. Elder Theron and the Keepers had already revealed their true colors. "We know you've been snooping around, Alistair," Elder Theron said, his voice dripping with venom. "It's a pity you had to discover the truth. But it's too late to stop us." The Keepers surrounded them, energy weapons drawn. Kira and TAA were stunned, their faces a mixture of disbelief and betrayal. "How could you?" Kira demanded, her voice trembling with anger. "We trusted you." "Trust is a weakness," Elder Theron sneered. "We only care about power. And with your bloodline, we will finally unlock the secrets of Xylos and reshape the galaxy in our image." A fierce battle erupted. Raymond, Kira, and TAA fought valiantly, but they were outnumbered and outmatched. The Keepers were skilled warriors, wielding advanced technology. Just when they thought they were finished, a new player entered the game. A shadowy figure emerged from the shadows, energy blades flashing. "I'm afraid I can't allow that," the figure said, his voice distorted by a modulator. "The Kessler bloodline belongs to me." The figure attacked the Keepers with deadly precision, cutting through their ranks with ease. Raymond recognized the fighting style. It was Selton's. "Father?" Kira gasped. "Is that you?" The figure paused, his head cocked to the side. "In a manner of speaking. Selton Kessler was a pawn, a tool to be used and discarded. But his bloodline, that is something worth preserving." "What are you talking about?" Raymond demanded. The figure deactivated his modulator, revealing his true face. It was Selton, but something was different. His eyes glowed with an unnatural light, and his expression was cold and calculating. "I am Selton Kessler," he said. "But I am also something more. I am a guardian of the ancient technology, chosen to protect it from those who would misuse it." "But you lied to us," Kira said, her voice choked with emotion. "You manipulated us." "I did what was necessary," Selton said. "The fate of the galaxy depends on it. And now, you must choose. Will you join me and help protect the ancient technology? Or will you stand against me and become another obstacle to be eliminated?" Raymond, Kira, and TAA exchanged a look. They knew they couldn't trust Selton, not anymore. He had betrayed their trust, and they couldn't forgive him for that. "We stand against you," Raymond said, his voice filled with resolve. "We will protect the ancient technology from you, and from anyone else who seeks to control it." Selton's expression hardened. "Then you have chosen your fate. Prepare to die." He lunged at them, energy blades blazing. The battle was joined once more intense and desperate than before. Raymond, Kira, and TAA fought with everything they had, but Selton was too strong, too skilled. Just when they were about to be defeated, TAA activated a hidden device, unleashing a surge of energy that knocked Selton off his feet. "We may not be able to beat you, Father," TAA said, "but we can stop you." The device activated a self-destruct sequence, causing the Keeper's citadel to crumble around them. "No!" Selton roared. "You fools! You don't know what you're doing." Raymond grabbed Kira and TAA, pulling them towards the Shadow Raven. They raced through the collapsing citadel, dodging falling debris in energy blasts. They reached the Shadow Raven just as the citadel began to explode. Raymond piloted the ship out of the nebula, narrowly escaping the destruction. As they watched the Keeper's citadel disappear in a blaze of glory, Raymond, Kira, and TAA knew that their lives would never be the same. They had lost their mentor, discovered a shocking betrayal, and become enemies of a powerful and dangerous force. But they were not broken. They were stronger, more determined than ever. They had a responsibility to protect the ancient technology, and they would not rest until they had fulfilled their duty. The truth had revealed what they needed to do. The Shadow Raven emerged from hyperspace near a desolate, uncharted planetoid. Scans indicated a complex energy signature emanating from its surface. "This is it," Kira announced, her voice tight with anticipation. "The location of the Nexus activation site. Selton must have been planning to come here. And he kept it from us," TAA muttered, her anger still simmering. Raymond piloted the ship towards the surface, navigating through a maze of jagged rocks and deep craters. As they approached the source of the energy signature, they saw it, a massive structure, half buried in the ground, pulsating with an eerie light. "What is that thing?" Raymond asked, his voice filled with awe. "The Nexus Core," Kira replied. "An ancient device capable of manipulating space and time. It's the key to unlocking the full potential of the Kessler bloodline." As they landed near the structure, alarms blared throughout the ship. "Multiple contacts detected," Astra announced. "Senate ships and the Harmonious Convergence are converging on our position." "They followed us," TAA groaned. "We're trapped." "Not yet," Raymond said, his eyes gleaming with determination. "We have to activate the Nexus Core before they reach us." They disembarked from the Shadow Raven and raced towards the structure. As they approached, a wave of energy washed over them, causing their heads to swim. "What was that?" Raymond asked, staggering. "The core is reacting to our presence," Kira said. "It's testing us, preparing us for what's to come." They reached the entrance to the structure and stepped inside. The interior was a labyrinth of corridors and chambers, filled with ancient symbols and glowing crystals. "This place is incredible," TAA whispered, her eyes wide with wonder. "Focus," Raymond said. "We need to find the activation chamber." They navigated through the labyrinth, solving puzzles and avoiding traps. As they delved deeper, they encountered ghostly apparitions, remnants of those who had come before. "They're trying to scare us," Kira said. "But we won't be deterred." Finally, they reached the activation chamber. In the center stood a massive console, covered in alien symbols. "This is it," TAA said, her fingers itching to touch the controls. "But how do we activate it?" As she reached out to touch the console, a voice echoed through the chamber. "You are not worthy." Selton materialized before them, his eyes burning with hatred. "I will not allow you to misuse the power of the Nexus Core." "You can't stop us, Father," Kira said, her voice filled with defiance. "We will protect this technology from you, and from anyone else who seeks to control it." Selton lunged at them, energy blades drawn. Raymond, Kira, and TAA fought back, but they were no match for Selton's power. "You are weak," Selton said, his voice filled with contempt. "You cannot comprehend the responsibility that comes with wielding this power." Just when they thought they were finished, TAA activated a hidden device, unleashing a surge of energy that knocked Selton off his feet. "We may not be able to beat you, Father," TAA said, "but we can stop you." She turned to the console and began to input the activation sequence. "No!" Selton roared. "You fools! You don't know what you're doing." The console lit up, and the Nexus Core began to hum with power. "What have you done?" Selton cried, his voice filled with despair. The ground began to shake, and the structure began to crumble around them. "We have to get out of here!" Raymond shouted. They raced towards the Shadow Raven, dodging falling debris in energy blasts. They reached the ship just as the Nexus Core reached critical mass. Raymond piloted the Shadow Raven away from the planetoid, narrowly escaping the explosion. As they watched the planetoid disappear in a blinding flash of light, they knew that everything had changed. What happened? Raymond asked, his voice trembling. The Nexus core has been activated, Kira said. The Kessler bloodline is now connected to the ancient technology. We can now wield its power. But at what cost? TAA asked, her face filled with worry. We've unleashed something that we may not be able to control. Suddenly, the Shadow Raven was surrounded by Senate ships and harmonious convergence vessels. They were trapped, with no way to escape. This is the end, Raymond said, his voice resigned. But then, something unexpected happened. The Shadow Raven began to glow with an ethereal light, and a wave of energy washed over the enemy ships. What's happening? Raymond asked, his voice filled with wonder. The Nexus core is protecting us, Kira said. It's using its power to shield us from our enemies. The enemy ships began to malfunction, their weapon systems failing, their engines sputtering. They're retreating. TAA exclaimed. We've won. Raymond couldn't believe it. They had survived the trials of Xylos, defeated their enemies, and unlocked the power of the Kessler bloodline. But he knew that their journey was far from over. As the Shadow Raven soared into the vastness of space, Raymond looked at Kira and TAA, his heart filled with hope. They were a family, bound by blood, duty, and a shared destiny. And together, they would face whatever challenges lay ahead.